Well, it was a fun weekend in Philadelphia sports. We're here on Training the AM to recap it all. Phillies, Aaron Nola, Nick Castellanos, news there. Sixers dropped 2 games on the West Coast. We're going to talk that. Friday afternoon, Eagles added another depth piece. We're going to talk that. We're going to talk it all right here on Training the AM, and it starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front. Joel Embiid,
and Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Do me that do me that favor. Head over to the DSM Media YouTube page. Hit the like and the subscribe button there. Turn your notifications on there. It's the best place to get interactive with the show. Drop your comments, thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever you may have on today's topics, which we're going to cover full gamut of Philly sports today on this show. Phillies, Sixers, Eagles, all on the agenda. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. We got Jason Voorhees sitting next to me here today. Jason, how you feeling this morning?
Doing all right. Excited to recap another sports weekend with my main man Phil. And
not a lot of big things happen. Like nothing out of the normal happened, in my opinion. But I think a lot happened, and a lot of things that we really do need to discuss a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's dive. You got your Phillies shirt on, so let's dive right into the Phillies as the starting point for today's show. Friday, news dropped that Aaron Nola and the Phillies organization have broken off contract extension talks. Obviously, Aaron Nola's on the last year of his deal. He wasn't the only one. Rhys Hoskins, who we spent a lot of time last week talking about, also on the last year of his deal. This is last year Aaron Nola's on his deal, and them not being able to get an extension done before the season, slightly concerns me a little bit. Jason, I know that I think you disagreed slightly with me, maybe not completely, but slightly. When Taijuan Walker was brought in, I was not a huge fan of the move. But I clearly made my point known when that happened, that in my opinion, the reason why Taijuan Walker was being brought in was an insurance policy in case they can't get Aaron Nola extended and he leaves in free agency. Are you concerned at all that Aaron Nola and the Phillies are far enough apart where they can't get a deal done? And, I mean, Aaron Nola's a homegrown talent, been here since day one, a veteran of this team. And for his flaws, he's still a very durable, reliable pitcher for this Phillies team. Are you concerned at all that they haven't gotten this deal done?
I mean, I don't want to say I'm necessarily concerned because, honestly, I think you got to look at this one of two ways. First and foremost, Aaron Nola is underappreciated in this town, just like
absolutely.
A lot of people bash Aaron Nola, and I've seen fans go as far to say that he sucks, blah, blah, blah. If you look at Aaron Nola's numbers, it's almost like Rhys Hoskins in that at the end of the year, those consistent numbers. He had 1 year with an ERA over 4, and everyone flipped shit and said he sucked. Most of the time, his ERA is in the low to mid threes. His WHIP is either at 1 or below. He's usually top 2 or 3 in Major League every single year in that category. He throws a lot of strikeouts and a lot of innings. The guy is one of the top pitchers in the league, and people don't realize that, and they don't give him the credit for that. Now, that being said, I think the Phillies, in their mind, they have a set number, and Aaron Nola probably wants more than that. So I don't think this is anything out of the ordinary, where contract talks break down. You would like them to get it done and have him, mentally prepared. But I will say, when you have a player like Shohei Ohtani that's a free agent, and there's other good free agent pitchers, not just Shohei Ohtani. I believe there's 3 guys that are elite pitchers that should be coming onto the market. The Phillies know that. So in their mind, they have a number with Nola. If he doesn't satisfy what they want to get done, they'll pursue those other options. They're not like one of these teams that are going to just let Aaron Nola walk and then throw some mid-level pitcher in there. They're just not.
I think some of it. So I want to clarify my Taiwan Walker comments because I'm sitting here thinking I don't want people to mistake them. They did not sign Taiwan Walker to replace Aaron Nola. If they lost Aaron Nola, they needed another veteran presence. I think part of the reason on where whatever their number is, just make up a number for argument's sake. Say it's $10 million a year. Obviously, it's probably way more than $10 million a year. But for argument's sake, say it's $10 million a year. Aaron Nola wants $20 million a year. They gotta make their decision. But their number of 10 versus Aaron's 20 is based off of the simple fact that they've got Painter, Abel, all these young guys. So they don't have to spend as much on Nola if they're that confident in those guys. And if they turn the reins next year in 2024 over to Aaron Nola or over to Painter and Abel, they still need that other veteran, strong, solid arm in their rotation. So Taiwan Walker was brought in here, in my opinion, in case they lost Nola, to be that veteran presence along with Zach Wheeler with a very young pitching staff. Now, do you think? I mean, obviously, I think you're onto something with the Ohtani sweepstakes. The Phillies are going to be linked to that. I think till a deal is done and Ohtani knows where he's playing next year, the Phillies are going to be linked there. I think there's no doubt about that. But I don't know. Where was I going to go with this here? I don't know if they're making their decision solely based off of the Ohtani thing. I don't know if that's can really organizations really plan what they're doing. Like 10 organizations are all going to be looking at Ohtani. They're all going to be wanting to dump $500 million into this guy. Can you really take that chance of making that kind of a decision and planning your offseason and your season, around maybe hoping to get this one guy?
Well, no, I see. So
because I really think a lot of sports teams do that. You see it in basketball all the time. Teams trade all these assets to clear up cap space to sign a star, and then they don't get the star. And then they're screwed because of it. So I think enough teams have screwed that, philosophy up that they don't do that. They're not doing that.
I don't think it's necessarily that, but I will say that in their mind, they know that if they're not having to pay Nola and they know they already don't have to pay Hoskins, that's the extra money that they have to go after that guy that, whether it's Ohtani or whether it's whoever. But I don't think they're necessarily not wanting to sign Nola. I just think they're being business. This is business, dude.
Absolutely.
I think in Philly, we just tend to think because things have been so smooth as far as players being signed, like Bryce Harper, Trey Turner signed day one of free agency. Like,
right.
We just think that happens with everybody. Like, and that's not the case, dude. If you look throughout like history, I mean, there's a lot of times where there's contract swap. I mean, we don't see it today as much as we used to see it in our age, Phil. I mean, I just watched the Reggie Jackson documentary just to give you some perspective. And by the way, it was freaking awesome. It's on Amazon Prime. I already told you about the facing Nolan. That was the Nolan.
Yeah, I watched that.
But some of these documentaries are awesome. And I watched this documentary on Reggie. I'm sorry to go off a little bit cut. I just wanted to give everybody perspective. In 1970, Reggie Jackson made $20,000 as a baseball player. $20,000, which is thousands of dollars less than you and I make, dude. And to be a star baseball player. And now we're talking about guys that make $300 to $400 million, in a contract, but like in a year they make $30 to $40 million a year. So you do the math. Like it's a business. So even though like Aaron Nola and the Phillies aren't close right now, I don't think that necessarily means a deal can't get done. I just think it means that they're not on the same page. And
the question that I really think is, does it affect Aaron Nola this year? I mean, some players in all sports, we could talk about any sport. Contract years affect the way players play. Sometimes they perform above their level. Sometimes the pressure, brings them down a level. It could go either way for any athlete. And, should it be a concern? I mean, I'm slightly concerned that it could be a distraction. He hasn't had a down year in a while. That one year that was his bad year that he had, I'm concerned. He's put a lot of miles on his arm, a lot of innings he's thrown. He's looking for the big contract next year. He's got no financial security after this year. Maybe he takes his foot off the pedal a little bit this year because of the concerns.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think something that's definitely as far as performance. But I'm not like we don't have control of it as fans. I know we're
Right.
analyzing, but like we don't have control. Like we all would just wish that it would just happen. Like, wow, Aaron Nola signed whatever, 6 years, 200 million. But like there's a lot that goes into these contracts. I mean, the Phillies also got to look at, as you mentioned, they have two young guys that are. I mean, Andrew Painter, the way that he's being talked about is that he's like a generational type pitcher. Well, if that's the case, then they're probably not going to sign Nola. If that's their real plan and that's where they're at, and maybe you're right. Maybe they don't go after Ohtani. Maybe they just look at it as, okay, we have Wheeler who is an ace. We brought in Walker as a mid-level guy. We got Ranger Suarez who's young, and we're hoping that he's going to take that next jump to kind of be in a 2 or a 3. But you know that you have Andrew Painter, and I know a lot of people wanted him up here. I'm so glad that it happened now. I'm glad that he's taking off. Just let him rest. Let him get his wheels. Let him. I'm not saying don't bring him up because I think he is legit. I mean, people that have watched him, like superstar athletes that talked about seeing him pitch. JT Realmuto gushed about it. Like all these guys. It's not just like people just saying things, but the whole thing with pitchers and prospects, he could be that generational talent, but like he has to put it all together. And a lot of times these guys don't pan out like that. We've seen it. I mean, I remember Josh Beckett. Josh Beckett was a guy with the Marlins. I think he came up when he was 20 years old. He was a stud. I think he won the World Series with the Marlins. And then all of a sudden, like, I think he had 2 years of like 20 wins. And then all of a sudden, he just forgot how to pitch. And like, he just became a mid-level guy. He was never that great. But he had that talent, like, that they're talking about. Like, and that's what Andrew Painter has. So I don't know if that's their plan, but yeah, I'm a little concerned.
It concerns me because I mean, transition this into the conversation that we've got 2 spring training games left. We're almost ready to break camp. Thursday's opening day. You know, we have all week. We're going to talk opening day and season and the predictions and our thoughts. This Phillies team is struggling at the close of spring. You know, we always say you can only take spring training stats, you know, with a grain of salt, but you can also take the big picture. And the last week or so, this team, they've lost 4 of their last 5, 5 of their last 7. I think they've lost 7 of their last 9 games. They're struggling towards this opening gate of opening day. And that could all they could flip a switch and be fine opening day, possibly. That is a chance. But Aaron Nola, you know, with the contract situation, you have the Rhys Hoskins situation, you know, him blowing out his knee, a leader, one of the most loved players. You're coming off a season which has now put huge expectations on this season. You've got expectations galore. And it kind of feels like not from the fan base, but from the team. All of a sudden, the vibe is very, I don't know. You know what I mean? There's this negative energy that I'm feeling coming off this team because of the Aaron Nola situation, the Rhys Hoskins situation, the struggles. You know, the Aaron Nola contract situation is just one of many things that could cause this season to tailspin in the wrong direction.
But then again, you got to look at it this way, Phil. The last few, you're saying that they've struggled, but I looked at the box scores and I looked at who played in the last 5 games. Their stars only played in 2 of those 5 games.
Yeah, that's fine.
And their stars are still performing. If you looked at Trey Turner, you have to count the World Baseball Classic. You can't just say, oh, Trey Turner. He's also hit 2 home runs in regular spring training. So, the guy's on fire. I'm not worried about.
Aaron Nola's not pitching well.
No,
Wheeler's definitely not pitching well.
That goes to why I said when you asked me what was I more worried about, I'm more worried about the pitching. I'm not worried about the offense. The offense will figure it out. Whether or not Derek Hall can hit lefties, he's still going to match the ball. He might not be like a full-time replacement for Rhys Hoskins, and no one will. But yes, I agree. You're on to something with Aaron Nola because now you get it as I've seen Nola, how he cracks under pressure. We saw it in the World Series when he kind of dipped. And I don't I don't want to claim to know that maybe that's possible, that's just him being tired because he threw so many innings the last couple of years, and you could be right about that. But I only can go by what I saw like in big games, and we talked about his performance down the stretch in numerous years where September he struggled. Now, obviously, this past September he did well. But will that looming contract affect his performance on the field? Because as you said, some players will take it upon themselves and say, I'm going to have a career year. But to me, I think pitching a lot of times is more mental. And that weight of like not knowing, that could really do it a bad thing
Think
too.
about it. We went from having this, we thought, give me just to say December or November. We were thinking we had this stud pitching staff. You had Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Walker, and then whoever, Bailey Falter, Painter, all these guys. Now we got Matt Strahm, who's going to be a starting pitcher in the first 5 games. Ranger Suarez is out till May now, they're saying, maybe longer. Okay, we don't know if we'll see Painter this year. You got Nola, Wheeler struggling. All of a sudden, it wasn't just a question mark. Now it is the question mark of this team. And again, we've talked about it before. The Mets, even without Edwin Diaz, are still a damn good baseball team, at least in the regular season. The Braves are going to be great every year for the next 100 years, it feels like. And you brought it up last week. The Marlins they're a much improved team. You come out of the gate slow, you can easily find yourself, again, just like last year, 10, 12 games behind first place in the division before blinking an eye. And I don't care how great your offense is, you can't win every game 8-6. We thought we were going to do that last year, win every game 8-6, 10-7. You can't expect to do that every game, and we saw that last year. So there just seems to me like, I'm sure Wednesday, Thursday, as we get set for opening day on Thursday, my energy and my positivity will be back to the over fandom. But on this Monday morning, my overreaction Monday kind of feeling is that I'm getting a negative feeling about this team right now.
Yeah, it does kind of feel a little.
Feels a little off.
It feels like after the Rhys Hoskins thing and then the Aaron Nola news, it's just almost like like the wind went out of the sails.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. I agree with you 100%.
Like I was ready to predict like a 9,500 win season. Now I'm back to being realistic. Me thinking, can this team win 90 games? If you set the over under, I think the over under was at 87 or 88 and a half, and I probably would have picked right around the over, like 87, 88. But if you would set it like over under 90 and a half wins, at this feeling I'm feeling this Monday morning, I'm taking the under, even with as great of an offense as they have. I still think the their call thing, it's a questionable. I'm not as sold, and the fact that the Phillies are putting this past week, this weekend during ground ball and infield practice, Alec Bohm was taking first base grounders, and so was Nick Castellanos. And I'm pretty sure Nick Castellanos has never played first base before. So to me, that tells me that the Phillies are more concerned than we are with the Rhys Hoskins situation. What do you think about the Nick Castellanos, who, when he was in, I want to say it was before Cincinnati, when he was in Detroit, refused to go to first base? And now he's voluntarily accepting some work at that spot. Hey, that's good for the team that he's willing to do that for the team, etc. But what do you think about, we talked about last week, Bohm moving him over. Yeah, he's getting comfortable at third. You don't want to do it. Nick Castellanos was getting comfortable in right field. Do you really want to move, that guy to first base?
No, I'm tired. This is why because you called this last year. You said that was probably why Castellanos had a down year, and it had probably a lot to do with it. Being flip-flop, not knowing where he's playing. He thought he was coming here to be a DH. Listen, I love the camaraderie. I love the humbleness of him willing to do it. But I don't like it as a fan. I don't want him at first base. Dude, listen, I told you, I think they should make a trade. But I know I'm not the GM. I would just go and make a trade and get CJ Cron and just call it a day. Like a guy that's on a one-year deal. Mm-hmm. You have assets to get him. I'm not saying you got to, and you won't have to give up Abel or Painter or any of these guys. So to me, I just think, or you just say, okay, we're going to roll with Derek Hall, and we'll play. If you're going to do it with anybody, it should be Sosa. Sosa's played every single position. He's played the outfield. He's played infield. He's a guy that I'm okay. When you have a utility guy that's used to it, there's a big difference between trying it out with someone like that as opposed to messing with Alec Bohm. Listen, I'm not saying Alec Bohm wasn't a first base. He is a natural first baseman. But he just got good at – I'm not saying he's a star at third base. But he played very well through the playoffs at third base. He played well defensively. And to just go and wreck that juju, I hate that because then all you're going to do is affect his mental state, and then it's going to pour over onto the offensive side of it, and then we're going to be saying, why are these guys struggling again?
It almost feels like they should just go Dirk Hall full time, even with at first. I mean, we talked about it last year nonstop. Once Bryson Stott knew he was in the lineup every day, and some of that pressure of going 0 for 4 one day means you get benched 3 days. You know, just give Dirk Hall, be like, yo, you're playing every day, whether it's a lefty or a righty. You're going to sink or swim in that first month of the season. We're going to give you 6 weeks. You go 0 for 4, strike out 3 times against a lefty, it don't matter. You're still in there the next day. Have that confidence that the rest of your lineup can pick him up and let him get comfortable. Because if you bench him, say you're at the end of a series, game 3 of a series, you're going up against a team's left-hander, and you sit him. And then just the next game happens to be another left-hander in the next series. So now you're 2 or 3 days in a row where he's sitting the bench. He's not going to be able to get that comfortable rhythm he needs. Just put him out there. Don't even, you know what, he's the power guy. You know, typically he would hit in that 4, 5, 6. Just put him in the 7 hole. Put him down at the bottom of the lineup. Let him get comfortable. Let him figure it out. And just go with them every day instead of trying to piece it together, mix match it here, there, this guy, that guy. Just go with one guy.
I mean, Phil, I know you're not high on Derek Hall, but
It's not that I'm not high on it. He's just I just don't know if he's a flash in a pan guy that had a great 26-year-old season in the minor leagues, or is he? What was the guy that came up? He was the Bash brother with Reese Hoskins down in AAA the year that Hoskins got called up. There was another guy that was hitting home runs left and right. He was a big left-handed power hitter.
Ruff?
No. What was his name? I forget. There was a guy. Hoskins and somebody else were down in the minors, both mashing. Yeah. Hoskins came up, turned into a really good player. The other guy was a flash in a pan.
All right,
so we don't know if that's a call or not.
No, and I got it, but you have to let it play out. I mean, there's a chance that Derek Hall could be a find. There's a chance that Derek Hall could actually become very good. I'm not saying he's going to be the starting first baseman for, the rest of his tenure. But what I am saying is that I think that you're good enough offensively that you can do what you're saying. Like, let him have some time, and let's see what it is.
Yeah, just give him a chance. I mean, I don't know if it'll work or not. And if the rest of our lineup is as good as it's supposed to be, you can probably sacrifice a month of Derek Hall playing every day to figure it out. And then if it doesn't work out, then you go make your trade. You mentioned Darren Ruff. Darren Ruff was cut by the Mets. He is an available power hitting right-handed, first baseman that's on the market right now.
Darren Ruff.
I can't believe that guy's still in baseball.
Yeah, I mean,
he turned his career around with the Giants and Gabe Kapler, and then got a contract with the Mets. He got cut this year, but hey, you could probably go get Darren Ruff to come back to Philly really cheap.
Yeah, Aaron hates Darren Ruff.
So then definitely go get Darren Ruff. I don't know. I'm just concerned with all these things that keep hitting here as the season gets closer. It's like we came in with all the hype. Last year there was no hype, and we peaked. This year the hype's starting up here. There's higher expectations, and now as we get closer to the season, it's like things keep going wrong, and it's kind of concerning to me. It really is, and it's a long season baseball.
And I know baseball fans don't want to hear it, but that's why they say it is so hard to get back. Like, you have to, in baseball, yeah, you could be a great team, but this just shows you, bang, an injury to your first baseman. Your pitcher's mental state's now a mess because he didn't sign a contract. And all of a sudden, those two things alone could derail you from getting to the World Series. And that doesn't mean they don't have a good team, because on paper, they have the same team. It's the same team, with obviously adding Trey Turner, which, it can't hurt to add a superstar to your team, especially when Bryce Harper's going to be out for a month or two.
So the baseball player I was thinking of was Dylan Cousins.
Oh, yes.
You remember him? He came up to the Phillies in 2018, just a little bit after Rhys Hoskins did, but he was big in the minor league system.
Yeah, I always thought he was really like Kirk Cousins, but
yeah, bashing. Sorry, I couldn't stop thinking about the guy's name till I figured it out. I had to figure it. But that guy was hitting as many home runs as Hoskins was in the minors. Big power left-handed hitter. And then he came up here after, a flash in the pan and he floundered and he's only played. He's still in, I think it says here that he's in the Tampa Bay minor league system right now at 29 years old still. So he's only had twice in his life, 2018 and 19, that he's ever even been called up to the big leagues. And he couldn't get. So like is Derek Hall going to be a serviceable guy, or is he just going to be another Dylan Cousins? And I don't know, but I just figure they just got to give him the chance, and not an every other day chance. Just let him be there every day instead of worried about Castellanos or Bohm. Just give him every day.
Hey, listen.
What harm are you going to do by doing that? If you're gonna play Derek Hall every other day and Sosa every other day versus Derek Hall every day, is the difference going to be that drastic in your win-loss record?
I mean, listen, there was one. Everybody has to have their start. I mean, Ryan Howard. I remember when Ryan Howard was bashing the ball in the minor leagues. Signed Tomey, and that blocked Ryan Howard. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really know what Ryan was going to become. There was no way in my mind that I knew Ryan Howard was going to come up, hit the 20-some home runs that first year, and then hit 58 his second year. 58 home runs, dude. Nobody's hit 50 besides Aaron Judge since then. I mean, that was quite a year that he had that year. And
absolutely,
nobody thought that Ryan Howard was going to have that career. Now, obviously, his career got shortened because of that injury. But Ryan Howard, and I'm not saying Derek Hall is Ryan Howard, but you don't know. How do you know? Because you don't. They're prospects. That's the thing. It's like baseball prospects. Like a lot of times, the guys that you don't think are going to be that good end up being your stars, and the superstar guys that everybody's like, oh, yeah,
hype train. Yeah.
Huh?
No, I agree with you on that completely.
You don't know. You really don't. So, I mean, I'd like to see what Hall can do. I would.
Yeah. I think, personally speaking, that would be my direction at this point. I know I joked about Darren Ruff. You brought up CJ Crone a couple times now. There are options out there. If Derek Hall does not make it, the CJ Crone type move or the Darren Ruff type move will be out there. The moving Alec Bohm move, it's an option down the line. Just stick with Derek Hall right now. And I don't know. I just hope that we can find some positivity early in the season with this team to keep that momentum going. Because if this team starts to struggle early, the hype and the love and the new fans that they gained last year, that's going to go down really quickly. Because baseball's a long season. So I need to keep that positivity going with the Phillies as quickly as I can.
So I know we're not doing our predictions today or anything like that, but I do have a well, I wouldn't say it's bold because it happened last year, but I could just very well seeing opening day Trey Turner going yard, but only it will be away because remember last year when Schwarber's first game, he went yard in his first at bat at Citizens Bank. Now, obviously, this is in Texas, but I think Trey Turner's going to have a big game. Wait, I said 8, right?
What's that?
I think the first game is a 4:00 start.
4:00 on Thursday.
I work till 4, so I got to ask my boss if I can leave at 3:30.
What a good employee. Hey, there's a Phillies game on. There's 162 of them, but I want to go home early for this one.
He knows I'm a diehard fan. It's Aaron Nola versus DeGrom, man. I gotta see that. That's
all right. Let's transition. So let's go from one team with expectations in the Phillies that they're sky high to another team, and that's the Sixers. They just had 2 West Coast games, Friday and Saturday. First and foremost, I hate West Coast games because it's so hard to say. Even Saturday night, knowing I was off on Sunday, even though I just worked 2 14-hour days, It was so hard to stay up on Saturday night. And I only got through the first half of each game, went back and caught up on what happened in those games. But they lost both games on that West Coast trip there. They got Denver tonight, in Denver, completing this 4-game road trip, which they're 1-2 on so far. But again, we've had no James Harden the last couple nights. And it's still questionable whether he'll play tonight. And honestly, at this point, and I'm gonna just give you some numbers here. They're 13-8 in the 21 games that James Harden has missed. Not bad this year, but they are the 4th worst offensive team in the league when James Harden is not in the starting lineup. So that to me tells me, if I go back and do some research, a lot of the games he's missed have been against lesser opponents. And, I kind of feel like these last couple games you've been wasting Joel Embiid, because without James Harden out there, you're going to struggle to beat great teams. And we all talk about nonstop how dominant a season Joel Embiid is having and how this team runs through Joel Embiid, and it's everything Joel Embiid. But these last 2 nights, what I've seen, the first half of the games that I've watched intently, and then the second half, which I just fell asleep during, that this team is completely different when James Harden is not on the floor. So the whole point of this little intro to the Sixers conversation, Jason, there's 8 games left in the season. James Harden is beat up. They now have pretty much no chance at the number 1 seed, barely a chance at the 2 seed. I'm almost willing to just say, James Harden, take 1 or 2 more days off. Play 1 or 2 more games, and then take the last 3 games. I need James Harden 110%, or as close as possible, for that first round of the playoffs, that I could care less what happens in these next 8 games. And I know it's the wrong attitude to take, because you got to win every game, and you don't want to set a losing mentality out there. But man, the numbers show, and what you visually see on the court, James Harden has to be on there for them to have a chance in the playoffs.
So let me ask you, how hurt is he?
They haven't really. They're pulling a Flyers. They must have gone to the school of of Bobby Clark and all those guys on how to describe. He's got Achilles soreness. It started as foot soreness. Now it's Achilles soreness, but they haven't said anything else.
Okay, so here's my thing.
It's like they're pretty much saying he's got a lower body injury, and that's all they're saying.
If he's really hurt, then he shouldn't play, because all right, here's the thing. Is resting him 8 games going to get him any better? If the answer is no, then he has to play. I mean, I'm not saying play all 8, but if the answer is yes, if resting him gets him back to 100%, then yeah, you do it. I think it depends on the injury, because I don't know.
That's the problem. I think the Sixers are being so transparent with, they're, like I said, turn into Flyers organization. They're not it's the other night. I'm sure, I know you didn't watch it, but I'm sure you saw it. How Joel Embiid didn't play the second half of that blowout game against the Bulls. Yeah, and nobody said anything. And then they just said it was because they were winning by so much. And then after the game, it came out, well, he had calf tightness. And then you see a video of him grabbing his leg and stuff like that. Like, they're becoming so transparent with their injury talk. I think because the fan base freaks out because we've had so many of these freak injuries with Joel Embiid, and the fan base gets so worked up about it, that they're being so transparent, which is making it so much harder for us to know what's going on with this team.
Yeah, it's a good call out. I mean, listen, like I said, I think James Harden, I've seen a lot of maturity this year. I've seen him, obviously last year, everyone was disappointed in how he played in the playoffs. But, I think your point about how they're different on the floor with and without him, and the fact that you're using the eye test because you're not going by the record, because in your mind they played bad teams. I mean, that is a concern. That shows you, as much as it does run through Joel, your path to a championship absolutely needs James Harden. You can't expect to go into the playoffs and win with Joel just taking over a game, because unfortunately the problem is they stop the other guy. And these really good teams that match up well against the Sixers are able to put our other pieces in check, guys like Maxey, Tobias Harris. So you need James Harden.
See, the thing is, this team has been built and coached, and we've criticized Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers a million times on this show. But the realistic speaking is, this team has been built to be the James Harden, Joel Embiid show. And every other piece on this team, whether they're good pieces or not, were brought in here to complement them. They're not the right – a lot of them aren't the right pieces to complement them. But in theory, when the team was built, they thought they were bringing in these pieces to complement those two. So when you don't have those two, you don't have anybody else that can go out there and stand on their own. And when James Harden or Joel Embiid's out there without James Harden, he's not, well, he's still really damn effective. I mean, he put up 40 some on Friday and 28 some on Saturday. I mean, he's still dominant, but it just changes the way the game. Everybody just gives the ball to Joel and just says, do your thing. And you see a lot of standing around. You see a lot of no motion. It's like this team is so built heavy on the top two that when one of the top two isn't there, nobody else knows what to do. And that goes on Daryl Morey, poorly building this team, and then Doc Rivers, poorly, constructing a team, offense, a rotation. I mean, we saw it on Saturday night. We lost by 20 on Saturday night. Now, it wasn't a 20-point blowout the whole game. And then instead of playing Paul Reed, Doc Rivers went to Dwayne Dedmon in the third or fourth quarter, whenever it was, when Joel Embiid was out of the game, and we completely got smoked in that stretch of minutes there. And that just goes, well, why are we playing Dwayne Dedmon, who is another wasted roster spot, a guy we just brought in who could barely get on the floor because he's so beat up and old, when you've got young Paul Reed, who his one role, he's pulling the Bryson Stott, he's pulling the Derek Hall, he's getting comfortable in his role. And then Doc Rivers says, we're going to go a different way tonight. And then that different way, which has no reasoning behind it, probably cost you a game. And you're resting James Harden to get him ready for the playoffs, but you're still playing Joel Embiid. But you're wasting those Joel Embiid performances because of everything else around him isn't working. I almost just want Joel Embiid and James Harden to rest on the same nights. Just Doc Rivers has already called out the scheduled loss, philosophy this year. Just on a scheduled loss, just sit them all. Just I don't care. Just run the Delaware Blue Coats out there for a game if you got to, because you're going to have a better chance there than wasting a performance from Joel Embiid.
Why don't they do that?
I don't know why they don't do that. It's kind of, I know it's completely weird, but if you're going to rest one star, just rest them both. Get them healthy together at the same time. I just don't understand, the philosophy of what Doc Rivers does out there on a nightly basis.
Do you think Joel has the MVP locked up?
Yeah, see, now that was going to be my next question.
Okay.
There's a lot of not rumors, conversation going around social media. Is Joel Embiid playing right now? Because he's obviously banged up. He's got calf issues. He's got foot, back, knee, everything else that he always is going to have nagging him because of his size and the way he plays. If he wasn't in that conversation to win MVP, and this seems to be the year that he's probably going to win it, if it wasn't that way, would Joel Embiid be resting right now? If this was still last year that Jokic has got it rocked up, but last year the conversation was Jokic will win, but Joel should. This year the conversation is Joel is the one that's going to win it and probably should, but he doesn't want to lose any of the momentum by sitting. Do you think Joel Embiid is pushing himself too hard to get that? Even though he said, I don't care about that award. I just want to win in the playoffs. He keeps saying the right things.
That's a lie.
It's got to be a lie, doesn't it? Like any player, someone like Jalen Hurts, they say they don't care about individual awards, but deep down inside they want that recognition, right? Every I mean, we want to be recognized as the best at what we do. Everybody wants to be recognized. They want team success, but they want to be recognized.
Yeah, listen, I love Joel. I do. I told you he's my favorite player in the world. I mean, he's what's actually got me back into liking basketball again. I mean, I'm an AI guy, but obviously I kind of lost interest in the Sixers, and like a lot of Philadelphia fans. I mean, they were bad for so long, but Joel Embiid, I think he has shown a ton of maturity. He's a lot better with like what he says, and he's really become, really good at these interviews. But like at the end of the day, you're right. Like it's like if you really want what's best for the team and you know that you should be resting, then rest. Like I don't know. I just feel like, dude, I feel that this team. I always think that there's something missing, but at the same token, when Joel and Harden are at their best and when they're meshing and when they've played those really good teams and won, in my mind, I believe this team can win a championship. I really do with just Joel and Harden. But like everything has to go the right way. Like we can't have Harden being hurt. We can't have Joel, playing down the stretch here and getting guy and being out 6 weeks. I mean, we can't have that. Like that's like not an option.
I agree. I mean, so I was just looking at tonight's game against the Nuggets, where they're in Denver. And Joel Embiid and James Harden are both listed as doubtful to play. So that to me is a good like honestly, like I want them. I mean, because they were both in Phoenix. They just that would be like 3 days off if they didn't play tonight. 3 more days off. That just for at this point of the season, there's 8 games left. It just doesn't matter in my opinion. To me, there's nothing that good that could come, from just risking it. You don't want them to be. It's not like in the NFL where if you sit your starters in for game 17 before the playoffs because you got your playoff spot locked up. It's not like, you can let them sit and rest for 8 or 9 straight games, down the stretch here. You got to play them somewhere. You know what I mean? But there's no reason for them to play every single night. There just isn't. Just you got to get them a break. And I'd rather them get those breaks together and then play together to keep that continuity together because like you said, if everything goes perfect, if they're as healthy as they can be, come playoffs, nobody can stop them. They're that good. They can win despite Doc Rivers. They can win despite any strong bench pieces around them. They can win despite any of that. That's how talented that duo is. But they got to be healthy to do it. So just sit them tonight. Please sit them. Only play them home games the rest of the year. I don't care.
Please.
Don't even let them try. See, the thing is, like, when these guys, like James Harden, he's been hurt and he's been out for all these games. Like, I don't even want them traveling because just the wear and tear get on a plane. You know what I mean? It's like, just let the guys, they're in Denver tonight. Then they got 4 home games and 4 road games left. Just play them the 4 home games.
Just send James Harden to a strip club and have him stand pat.
I don't even want to hear that. See, James Harden has been good this year. He's been quiet this year. We haven't heard that talk this year. That's just another sign of maturity on this team. They want this. There's so many legacies on the line this playoffs for the Sixers, and I want them to be able to fulfill those legacies.
Yeah, on the line.
What?
Your process man.
Who?
The GM, Sam Hinkie.
Oh. Yeah, Sam Hinkie. Sam Hinkie's going to become the new GM of the Flyers next, right? He's going to run them through the process. All right, let's move on here. Let's talk a little Eagles here, okay? Obviously, the Eagles have made another move on Friday, another depth move, bringing in Edmonds, the safety from Pittsburgh. His contract details were released yesterday. It's literally like a 1 year, $500,000. Like it's literally counting towards like $600,000 towards the cap. I mean, another genius type, contract negotiation from Howie. Between him, they've brought in linebackers and safeties and a lot of depth pieces so far. And after last year and the expectations, that are now set on this team, to me, Jason, it feels like something's brewing. I mean, like something big is about to happen. They're not making all these minor Rashad Penny for $1.5 million, $2 million, Marcus Mariota for a couple million. Like these moves that Howie's making remind me a lot about last year. They had the Son Reddick, but then they just were tinkering. Little this, little that here. And then boom, you go get A.J. Brown. Boom, you go get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Boom, you have a great draft. Like something to me feels like it's brewing. And there's rumors that the defensive end from the Titans is now on the trade block as well. There are a lot of big name available guys in the trade market. Is Howie Roseman just tinkering right now because he's got something big up his sleeve? Or is this just his philosophy that he thinks that this team is good enough? He's saving that cap money for the Jalen Hurts extension, and he's just going to roll with what he's got.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think he does have something coming, something big. But I think most of this is pointing towards Jalen Hurts and knowing that they need to get that done. I mean, obviously, there's no rush. And did point out a good point a couple weeks back that when Carson Wentz signed his extension, that was in June. So it was after all free agency. And then that's when it happened. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that, it would wait because you want to see where you're at cap wise and then be able to make that structure moving forward, to fit the needs of obviously the team. But if I'm Jalen, I want as much as I can get. I mean, that's just any person should get the best that they can get. I definitely think he's going to get $50 million a year. I don't think it's a question, but I could be off.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know if Howie really, how do I say this? Howie knows this team just got to the Super Bowl, knows this team is so close to he knows this window. Like his big picture window is huge because of Jalen Hurts and whatever happens with Jalen Hurts. But he knows that Super Bowl window is there right now. So I can't come to grips with thinking that this whole offseason is centered around making minor tweaks to the roster, letting big name guys go like Hargrave and John C. Gardner-Johnson, and him not having at least one more big move up his sleeve because he's going to want to capitalize on that Super Bowl window while Jalen Hurts is under his rookie deal still. Like, there's got to be – and I don't know if it's with the draft. I don't know if it's, we joked on Friday, and I did find a way. I found a way to mock the tight end or the running back, the wide receiver, and Jalen Carter all to the Eagles in the first round. I mean, I gave up every first-round pick and second-round pick for the next 100 years. But there's got to be something else, whether it's, replacing Hargrave with another up-and-coming young defensive lineman, whether it's going out and getting another star safety like the guy Bayard or whatever his name is from Tennessee. There's got to be something else up his sleeve.
What if, and I'm just saying this is a hypothetical, because if this is the case that the window is now, what would it look like if the Eagles did draft Bijan Robinson? And then what would it happen if they go out and they trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Which
I was thinking about that, the DeAndre Hopkins thing, because we do need another wide receiver. We are definitely in the market for another wide receiver, whether it's a slot guy, a young guy, a veteran, whatever. And I thought about that, and I actually went to his contract details on Spot Track. The thing with DeAndre Hopkins is it's not going to call – if you see what Brandon Cooks got traded for, what was that, like a 5th and a 6th-round pick? DeAndre Hopkins is going to go for a little bit more than that, maybe a 3rd or a 4th-round pick, which we've got plenty of picks. We can make a deal there. He's on the books for almost $30 million over the next 2 years, I believe. I could pull it up real quick, but he's got a massive contract. Dre Hopkins, Spot Track. Where is he on Spot Track? Why didn't it come up? It's a massive number. So if you're making that deal for DeAndre Hopkins, it's knowing that it's being done knowing he would renegotiate that. All right, so yeah, it's $33 million. Oh, actually, no, 34 over the next 2 years he's due. He's got cap hits of $30 and $26 million over the next 2 years. It's a big.
No, I know that, but if you're going
big price. So you've got to find a way if you're going to make that trade to renegotiate that contract. Otherwise, there's no chance the Eagles are in on that.
I'm not saying it's, but I'm saying if you're going to go all in, that would be the move that you would look at and say, okay, so I'm just saying that happened. If you drafted Bijan Robinson, say that's you're going at it. Mm-hmm. You're going to have the best offense in football. And then you get DeAndre Hopkins. That I would say this team even.
Right. And then you wouldn't. So you're saying you want the all-in move is to continue to make the offense even better. To me, the all-in move is going out and finding a safety and another defensive lineman, because this offense you can get a rookie wide receiver or go get. Hold on, I had it up, but now I switched it. Go get one of the veteran wide receivers out there to fill that wide receiver slot. at a cheaper deal. There's going to be a couple names that have experience that are on the market. I'm trying to spend my money to finish that defense off.
I understand
Because that defense, I want to compare the Phillies offense and Eagles offense. It's similar to Phillies pitching and the Eagles defense. There is talent on the defense, just like there is talent on the pitching staff. But there's a lot of question marks and holes on that defense now. To me, that's still why that if everything just goes as it should, that 10th pick, Jalen Carter, or how he's going to draft defense with that first pick, unless he shocks us with that Bijan Robinson. And if he doesn't draft defense there, it's going to be big time trades that are going to have to be made.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we both obviously have different opinions, but like, I'm not saying that yours is probably the right move. Like, it's smart to fix the defense. I'm just looking at it as a selfish thing that would be awesome to have, just so many more weapons. And I love all.
I mean, I agree. I understand that, and I agree. And look, in this day and age, in this NFL, can you win a Super Bowl with a middle defense and an elite offense? I mean, look in 2017. What was Jim Schwartz's defense in 2017?
Mid.
Yeah, it was mid. But we put up what? How many did we put up? 41 against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So I mean, I guess theoretically speaking, you can win with an okay defense and a great offense. And even if we don't go out and make the big move to bring in another, stud defensive lineman or linebacker, we still have pieces here. You still got Hassan Reddick. You still got Josh Sweat. You still got Brandon Graham. I know people disagree with me, but I still think Jordan Davis and Milton Williams are more than capable of being your starting defensive tackles with Fletcher Cox. I really do.
They better be. Jordan Davis was a first-round pick.
And we traded up for Jordan Davis. I mean, he's got to be. But Milton Williams, to me, is more than capable.
He was a second round or a third round?
Third round pick. But in the spot moments he had last year, I really saw some really high level play from him.
Phil, when you draft these guys, you need them to start being good. Like that's why I get frustrated with Eagles fans. Like they just want to ignore it. It's like you drafted Jordan Davis last year. Now you knew you drafted him. Your defense was so good that you could afford to not, let him grow playing wise as far as he didn't play as much. But dude, why draft a guy if he's going to be your first round pick and then you're not going to say, oh, he's part of your defense? I mean, that's asinine to me. Like, I mean, listen, it took Fletcher Cox a good year or two to kind of get his wings. I mean, he wasn't superstar when he first.
Look at Brandon Graham, right?
Brandon Graham.
How many years did we call Brandon Graham a bust at first? I mean, I think he was considered a bust for a very large portion of his career early on. So.
Probably the first 5 years.
Yeah.
We were saying bust. So, listen, you're right. They do need to fix holes on the defense. But, like, I think Jordan Davis, like, listen, if he's in shape, we've saw him. He's a behemoth.
Look, Jordan Davis, here's the thing with Jordan Davis. People, were talking last year early in the season, why can't this guy get on the field more, or let's build him up? And he was actually, before his injury, his snap count was going up and he was performing. Our awful run defense kept getting better as he got on the field more and more. Then he got injured. The run defense went to hell. Howie Roseman went out and got Linville Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, and they performed really well. There just was no room. It's not like Jordan Davis couldn't get on the field. Jordan Davis just was hurt, and they added to the rotation. It wasn't like he was performing poorly last year. It was an injury, and that's it.
No, but as a fan, we should all hope that he does become what he was. I mean, listen.
Have you changed your thoughts on Jalen Carter? Or do you have thoughts on Jalen Carter yet?
Oh, I love
if he's there at 10. Because I know Mark is 100% against it because he doesn't like bringing in bad or questionable character guys. But Jalen Carter, if quarterbacks weren't the always the first pick in the draft, no matter what, every year for the rest of our life, a quarterback will go number one. Jalen Carter has the talent to be the number one overall pick if you take the off-the-field issues away.
I would most definitely think about Jalen Carter. I think that Jalen Carter and Bijan are the two targets that the Eagles want. I do. I believe that's their two guys on the radar.
Yeah, I don't know how you could pick. I mean, the Eagles have taken risks on players before. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, I still personally don't think he falls to 10. I think a team in the top 6 or 7 will take him and take the chance on the off the field issues because he's that generationally talented.
I agree. But
Yeah.
but to your point, if you don't get Carter, like I said, even if you did get Carter, you still want, as a fan, you should want Jordan Davis to become what, like, or else we're going to be freaking out again and saying Howie drafted wrong. Howie drafted wrong. Like, we got to hope that Howie's starting to turn it around with his drafts.
And he has. As I was doing a fun little exercise the other day. I was like, what was the draft the year after we won the Super Bowl last? And that was the Avonte Maddox. We got Avonte Maddox, Dallas Goedert, Joshua. He had a great draft after winning the Super Bowl. So this year we had, we lost in the Super Bowl, but we have a lot more good draft picks this year after winning losing in the Super Bowl. I want to see if he again has a really good draft after that to keep the momentum going and all. Everybody keeps talking Bijan, and I know I joked about finding a way to get him here, and I did. And I don't know if I can get behind it, but I'm intrigued by it. So my question is, if Bijan Robinson is that guy, if Bijan Robinson's the one Howie wants, and he's there at 10, all numbers say that you could probably get him somewhere between 15 and 25.
I just draft him. If he
draft him at 10, or do you take that chance? You backtrack, you pick up more assets to trade for more defensive players, whatever it may be, or do you just take him at 10 and just be like, yeah, I'm all in?
I think he's worthy of being taken at 10 because I think he's the second player behind Jalen Carter.
I literally ran about 20 mock, just simulators the other day when I was putting that together, and he went between as early as 15 and as late as 30. In all, like, there's that big of a range when you run a simulator on where the running back gets taken. So that being said, is there that much of a difference? Are you really going to gain that much by trading back to get Bijan Robinson? You know what I mean?
It's not like you don't have another first round pick. If you didn't have another first round pick, then maybe I say take a risk. You have pick 30 too. Like,
yeah, I mean, and they got a lot of picks next year that they could trade to move that 30th
or I'll one better. If Jalen Carter's on the board, you take Jalen Carter, and then maybe you say, well, let's give you else and move back up and get. You could, dude. That might be.
I showed you. Hold on, let me find the tweet.
That might be the big move that you're talking about. Maybe, Phil, it's not a trade. Maybe it is a trade in that aspect, and they get 2 top guys in the draft. Maybe that's what your big thing. You're saying you're feeling you're feeling something. Maybe that's what it is.
I am feeling a huge move coming. But look here, I figured it out. You could get, look at this. I got us Jalen Carter, Jackson Smith, Njigba, and Bijan Robinson. Now, I gave up first-round picks in 2024 and 2025 and all our second-round picks next year to do this. But I found a way. I found a way to get this here. I did. And then I took the Chip Kelly quarterback just for shits and giggles at the end of the draft. But I conceivably found a way. It's so funny, Jason, because this is totally tongue-in-cheek. Because something like this, it's impossible for something like this to happen. There's no way that this happens, right? On Twitter, and I put like smiley face and laughy face emojis to try to let people know I was just joking around.
And they thought you were real.
There are so many people calling me an idiot and stupid and this and that because they think I really thought this was possible. Why would you give up so many of your future draft? Dude, guys, I was goofing around. I was trying to have a little fun. And this is what I came up with. I said, dude, Jason, it's so funny because I think I texted you this. I tried to make this work. I made all the trades, and then somebody would go too soon. So I'd have to refresh, start all over again, make all the trades again, and then somebody would go too soon to not have this happen. Dude, I literally had to try like 5 times to get this and mix and match things, and I finally got it.
I love it, dude.
I love it. Because realistically speaking, I traded the number 30 pick, next year's first-round pick, 2 second-round picks. That's not enough for Seattle to move from the 30th pick to the 5th pick. It's impossible. They say value-wise it works, but it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Some of these moves, like moving back up to 19 when we didn't have, trading a future first, a couple seconds and thirds. It's not enough to go from out of the first round into the first round. It's very unrealistic. The way those PFFs work, it's kind of.
You're an idiot, Phil.
I am an idiot. I'm a complete and total idiot for doing it. I'm stupid. Look, it was just me trying to, have a little fun.
People fun on Twitter, dude.
People can't sense sarcasm when there's clear as day sarcasm on it. All right, we're gonna wrap up trending in the AM right there for the day. We got more coming tomorrow. I got an interesting conversation set up for tomorrow. I'm stealing it. I ain't gonna lie. Ryan Rothstein, I like the guy. He's a good follower on Twitter. Always, he put out a conversation on his show. Which team has a better shot at redemption, the Phillies or the Eagles in their next season? And I think it's an interesting conversation because both these teams, we just kind of hinted at it. There's question marks across the board, on how they can or cannot get themselves back into the championship rounds of their respective sports. So I think we're going to pick up tomorrow with that part of the conversation. Obviously, we'll recap tonight's Sixers Denver Nuggets game. It's a West Coast game. It doesn't start till 9:30. I'm sure I will not see all of it. But yeah, we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter and everywhere you can. Have a great day and go Birds.
Go Birds.
And Philadelphia has it.